Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Cy Kirby, and I want to help you. What it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Blue Collar Business Podcast today. Sponsored, of course, by podcastvideos.com. We are sitting in their lovely solo studio today because we have a remote session. Somebody with a different story that I think is going to intrigue a lot of you listeners. So this is not a excavation solely minded podcast. This is going to encompass every single one of you trade guys sitting there listening right now. And it's going to be diving off into the government contracting world. And I have a government contracting expert with me today, Miss Melinda Colon with Fortis OBM. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Cy.
Seriously, I've had a brief intro with Miss Melinda, and I'm telling you what, guys, we have got a pretty interesting episode. And if you guys have been loving the show, make sure you check out bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com. If you're listening on any of the streaming platforms, make sure and give the show a rating and a follow at the end of the episode. Miss Melinda, the things we're going to be working through today, we're going to be talking about the misconceptions and myths about working with the government directly. What are the biggest challenges some of these small businesses face when entering the government contracting space, just to begin with, because it just sounds scary altogether.
Can't wait.
How to get started with you guys and walk us through there, and scaling a business through government contracting. And you have a very unique approach to this that you're passionate about sharing with other entrepreneurs in the blue collar space, white collar space, etc. So furthermore, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here. That was a great introduction, Cy. You're amazing.
Hey, I'll take that. What they don't see behind the scenes is me coming in all late. Sorry, Miss Melinda, I was in a meeting. They think I probably prepare more than I do, but I appreciate that. And let's start it off today. You shared something pretty unique, and we're going to start here and let you kind of intro us into today's episode. But you shared with me that you have procured worth 4.4 billion worth of government contracts for contractors.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Wow. Okay, where do I even begin? So, yeah, I mean, the world of government contracting is like hidden, right? Like nobody knows about it, except for those that are actually doing it. And I really thought that was really interesting. You know, it's like nobody invests in the stock market unless you actually know how to invest.
That's yep.
Right? It's just so weird. It's so strange. And so I took my information that I gathered, I created a system in corporate America, and I took it with me right on my back and put it into my agency and helped so many small and mid-sized businesses win government contracts. And a lot of them were just back-to-back contracts. Some of them were, 100,000, some were 500,000, and a lot of them were like 10 million, 50 million, 100 million.
Whoa.
And the biggest contract so far to date that we've helped our clients win, this was for a 7-figure business, just kind of give you a frame of mind, was a $1.4 billion contract.
Wow.
And right? I know. It's like, what? Are you serious? Crazy.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, a lot of these contracts, they're continuing services. They're like 1, 2, 5, 10-year contracts. I mean, imagine what that's going to do to your business. Just knowing that this client is going to pay you year in and year out the same amount every single month, every single quarter. Like, that just blows your mind. So a lot of the contracts that I help my clients win are those recurring contracts, those long-term contracts, and then they renew, and it's a whole game that I'm happy to share with you the strategy.
I'm I'm really, really excited. Let's start off with what makes you a government contract expert? Let's start there, learn a
Yeah,
little bit about Fortis OBM and
yeah.
Miss Melinda as a whole.
Oof. Okay, so we were talking about corporate America earlier, right? Like,
Mhm.
Melinda, I can't even believe you like got through 20 years of experience. Like, let's just be real. That's tough stuff. Okay. It's tough
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
That is, at one point I wanted to write on my resume, works well with multiple personalities. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of high level. And I worked through it, right? With the grace of God, I did. But freelanced for the last 13 years, wanting to get out. And I thought, well, let me just put my head down and do the very best that I can. This is a skill that I have. I actually really love this level of strategy. And I'm obviously really good at it. So that's really where it started. It was like this blood, sweat, and tears because there is no manual to do this, right? They make it intentionally set up like that. They want to make sure that you don't know how to invest, you don't know how to grow your business and create wealth, and
Mhm.
it's all a part of the system, friends. And so I took those secrets that are running billion-dollar businesses, and I created my own system. I call it the GovCon Sales Strategy. And
Yep.
this is incorporating marketing strategy. This is incorporating what I know about government contracting and being so close to helping other businesses win government contract. This was my job in corporate America. This is what I did every single day. Hundreds of
Mm.
proposals a year, billions of dollars won. I never even track any of that side because
Wonderful.
it's not even my win, right? It's like their win, right? I'll
Right.
give that to them. That's reciprocity. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to go help other people become wealthy too, so that they could be your competitors. Side note. But what I'm sharing here is a system that just works because I've seen businesses just work it, startups just work it, established businesses just work it, and they're starting to win government contracts. I'll tell you a story, real quick story.
Please.
A contractor here in Florida, they reached out to me. They said, "Hey, Melinda, we're really interested in getting into the space." And I said, "Sure, let's see, what opportunities are available for you." They found a $7.5 million contract. This is a $10 million business. I said, "Sure, let's go ahead. Let's go after it." Of course, there's hesitation. Of course,
Mhm.
there's kind of like like delay. We
Of
worked really
course.
hard to get to 10 million, and like there's a $7.5 million contract, right? It's that identity that starts creeping up in our minds,
You know.
and so I just put the proposal together. We worked through the strategy. They submitted, and guess what, Sai? Their first proposal working with us, they won. Now
Wow.
they found another 7.5 million. They're like, we're ready to do this one too. They're so excited. And the reason why I share that story is because this is what happens when you start seeing a whole bunch of zeros. You start realizing that there is untapped potential. There's an unlimited amount of cash, literally cash. These are your tax dollars. They're already paid, they're already created, they just exist. Cash
Sure.
sitting there for you to collect.
It's
Yeah.
the one thing that probably stuck me the most when you were just saying is nobody really knows about government contracting other than the guys that are in it doing it. And don't think there's many folks like yourself out there advocating for it either. But I couldn't even imagine being able to budget and forecast
Right?
with a $500,000 contract hitting that throughout, spread out through annual 6 months. I don't even care, let alone a million to five to a
Yeah.
billy.
Yeah.
Like, what that would be able to do for scale, for growth with, yeah, that you're talking to a guy that is
Yeah.
ate up through the commercial construction game and
Mm,
beat up because I learned the hard way because I didn't have a podcast like Blue Collar Business to use as a resource and go, hey, how's this pay scale going to work out for me when I do take this commercial contract? And I learned the hard way, and wasn't necessarily always the smartest, but I would have loved
Yeah.
to have been able to jump into a government contract with just even an annual space. And we've done
Yeah.
our little bit audience just to bring you up to speed with my government contract experience. I'm learning right along with you guys today because I don't have any type of knowledge past the public works local contract out by your
Good.
local entity, and almost had an annual
Yeah.
repeating one with my local entity here. But
Oh,
it sounds a little bit further. What kind of type of contract are you
yeah.
talking about, Miss Melinda? Let's maybe even break it down simply, because to an excavation and utility guy, I'm trying to pick up the
So
road
much.
or the utilities or the public works contract put
Yeah.
out through the entity. Is that what you're kind of talking about? Or tell us a little bit about the contracts.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Such a good question. Okay. Such a good question. That's like an advanced question. So there are different levels in government contracting. There's
Yes.
state, federal, and local. And you were talking about local. So that's agency. So let's say, for example, Department of Transportation. That is the federal level. It's Department of Transportation, kind of like the Department of Defense, right?
Hmm.
Department of Education. So they have agencies and offices, and they have different responsibilities. They kind of parse out responsibilities by state, by region, by specific workforce, by intention. There's different reasons for their segregation. But specifically for DOT, your state has a DOT agency. Every state in the
Oh,
United States has their own DOT agency. So you have like the Alabama Department of Transportation. They also have entities within that. So they have relationships with the Turnpike Commission, right? So that is a
yeah.
private entity that works with the Department of Transportation. So there are contracts all the way up and down that org chart or that structure. In addition to local. So one of the things that I love about local is that you're almost giving back to your community. It's kind of like
Yes.
if you're in concrete work and man, I mean, that side street is kind of like a quilt patch. You're just like, I need to find out who's going to do that work because I want to do that work so that I can
That's
drive
right.
home in peace and in peace. And so my wife's not screaming at me like, why don't you get this project? Right. So those projects are available for you right now. You just get registered in your state and you can start winning government contracts at the local level right in your neighborhood. Then there's the state level. So within the state of Florida, Alabama, Wyoming, Oregon, like wherever you are across the country. And then you have your state level. Then you have other agencies, districts like the water management districts in
Yep.
your area. And then you have federal. So there's contracts everywhere.
Mm.
They're everywhere. And so you think I had a podcast guest come on and he was talking about his I have to give him some props sometimes because I use this story so often because it's so good. He had a group of friends come over and it's about 10 friends and him and his wife hosted dinner. And they said before dinner, go ahead and I'm going to give you a piece of paper and a pencil. And I want you to go in the backyard and check out our fruit and vegetable garden and name as many fruit and vegetables that you can. And they all went out and they're all excited and everything. And 6 of them came back immediately after and they're like, I can't. There's nothing on their piece of paper. Only 4 came back with something on their paper. And the one that won had 4 items. Do you know how many things, fruits and vegetables they had in their garden, Si?
No way.
25. So he said to me, he goes, if they would die of starvation because they don't even know it's there.
Uh,
This is the thing. Government contracts are everywhere. They're everywhere. Imagine the roads, the bridges, the city streets, the lights, everything that blue collar professionals do every single day. They're literally building our world and they're everywhere. So if you see a structure, a system that you do, there's a contract for it. That is just how it is. It's simple. It's so simple like that. Does that make sense? Does that help?
yeah, no, that's exactly the answer to my question, is because, you know, Of course, there's taxpayers' money allocated, budgeted for whatever bill, etc., and whether that's at the local or the state. And no, it's crazy that you talk about DOT. Yeah, we have ARDOT. Missouri has MoDOT, as it's commonly referred, MODOT, and they all have. Why wouldn't they have those state level and then federal? That's crazy to think about. And so, basically, you guys are there to tie contractors like myself that maybe haven't really stepped foot into this other than maybe their local
Yeah.
municipality, local level for our
Yeah.
conversation here, our local level contract, but say somebody that wanted to step up into the state or that federal contract and the horror stories we have heard as well as contractors about
Oh, yeah.
some said contracts. Sounds like Miss Melinda is here to help us get started to ensure that contractually we avoid some of those horror stories.
Absolutely. Understanding
Miss
FAR, like, the federal acquisition regulations, like understanding how business is done in government is key, but it doesn't need to be complicated. So I like to simplify the complicated. All right. I'm going to say this: government contracting is kind of like trying to find a speakeasy on a Saturday night.
Okay.
Okay. You're
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
where is this place? Looking like every sign, there's like this a blue sign. It's like every sign is blue, right? Just like, where does it, where? But as soon as you find it, you get in, you know exactly where it is every single time after that. That's how government contracting is. The amount
Right.
of paperwork is less than buying a house. Like, have you bought a house before? Like, you've
Yes,
bought a house,
ma'am.
right? And all of that,
Wow.
stack of papers, hours and hours, you're sitting there, your butt's tired, right? But government contracting is not that. It's not that at all. Right? I
Yeah,
know.
that's definitely sitting here because you're right. It does have a stigma about it. Just from the contractor side of things, I'm sitting here going, government contract. Oh, the
Mhm.
red tape, the hoops I'm going to have to jump through just to be a legible contractor and deemed in their eyes in the state level. It sounds immediately. I'm like, no, no,
Yep.
that doesn't sound like anything I want to do. So, how does a contractor, say like myself at SciCon,
Okay.
how would I go about with your team? How would I go ahead and get started so I can maybe start seeing the right blue sign?
All right. So I'm going to walk you through my 5 steps because that's
Let's
where you
go.
need to go. So
Okay.
step number 1 is prepare. There is an abundant amount of opportunities. I don't care who's in administration. There is an abundant amount of opportunities for small businesses when it comes to government contracting. And if you just dive into government contracting, you will fail because you'll feel overwhelmed. You're like, I don't
That's
know, like there's just so much. So step 1 is prepare. Where do you want to go? Like, how much do you want to get? And this is the frame of mind that you want to have. It's not, I just want to get what is available for me. It is, how much do I want? There
mm,
is a difference because if you focus on, well, what's available for me, like, oh, well, you're going to stay small and you're going to stay stuck, guaranteed. If you focus on, well, what do I want? You get to be picky and choosy on what type of contracts you win, what type of opportunities you win, who, which agencies, which departments, which clients you want to work with. I just finished a 2-day workshop with someone, and he's like, I don't want to do any boring contracts. I want to work with, offices that are actually doing things to help people create a better life, right?
right.
Specific, mission driven, people driven, very heart driven contracts. And he's getting excited because he gets to decide that on his own. Like nobody's telling him otherwise. So that's number 1 is prepare. Now we move on to step number 2 is target. We need to know who's buying what we're selling.
Uh,
So when we know who's buying what we're selling, we're going to be targeted to build relationship with them, to know who the competitors are, who the contractors are. And here's what I'm going to say about competitors. In government contracting, competitors are not competitors. They're just other
mm,
contractors that want a contract. because in every single instance, they could potentially become a prime, a sub, a JV, right? Your best friend, you might buy their business, right? There's so many things that happen within government contracts. You always want to be open to that. So that's step number 2 is target. Step number 3 is strategize. Now we start to create a strategy. Okay, so we're going to go toward it and hit these goals. This is what we want as casted vision for our business. These are the contracts that we want to win with this specific client. Why should they pick us? We want to have this conversation internally with your team, your wife, your spouse, everybody, okay? Because this is a mission that you're driving forward. We'll talk more about that later. But that strategy is really, really important. Before we get into step 4 is submit. That's when we start creating a price, a proposal. And here's the thing. I've said this before, and people usually kind of like cock their heads to the side when I say pricing tells a story. Pricing tells a story. There's 2 standard ways to do pricing in government contracts. It's usually best and final offer, or AKA firm fixed price. And then there's cost plus. And typically they'll tell you which one is which, but you could tell a story with how you are writing a price. If you're the lowest, then they're going to expect that you're not the best.
Yep.
Even if it's best and final. So there are ways that you want to be strategic about how you position yourself in your proposal and in your bid. Now, step 5 is track. I love track because it's about iterating and improving and building a relationship. Do you know that there are some contracts that never even see the light of day? There are contracts regularly advertised and never responded to. There are contracts that don't require to be advertised, that they're so small that the government can actually pick up the phone, Sai, and call you up and be like, hey, does SciCon complete this contract? It is so cool. It is so cool. So the goal of my 5-step strategy is to get on their speed dial. If you could become, especially as a blue collar, if you could become on their speed dial, they'll call you when there's a national disaster. Now you're supporting your community. You're helping your people, your families, your friends have a better life. So it's changing the mindset. It's all about mindset here. Like we're in the zeros, right? There's millions, billions of dollars to be won. And so if you say to yourself, I'm going to limit, I just want one contract. All I need, Melinda, is just one contract. I'm going to tell you it's going to be harder for you to win that one contract than it is if you said, how many do I want? There's a difference. There's shift in messaging. I'm going to give your audience a couple of ninja tricks. Is it okay if I just kind of give some love?
Share.
All right.
Oh, it's getting good.
Okay. All right. And you listen up. In the US, every single city, municipality, every state, they hold a meeting, a board meeting. And a lot of them are recorded meetings, meaning that you can press play and listen to them or watch them. Majority of them already have transcriptions. Why am I telling you this? This is where they're talking about the problem that they're about to create an advertisement for. This is where they're telling you who they're going to award before the rest of the world knows. This is when if you get into that space, you know, basically like you're a fly on the wall and you know what their pain points and you can show up and be the hero. It's kind of like, how did you even know that was, you were seeing an ad, you're like, how did you even know that about me? It's kind of creepy, that level. All right. I'm going to give you a second one. Okay.
Please.
These are things that I never, ever share outside of my workshops.
Exclusive here on the BCB. Okay.
Super, super exclusive. So the second tip is when you're putting together a proposal, a price, even an email, you're going to speak in the future tense. Like, I will deliver this. We will work with you. We will make it happen. Why? Because it creates, in neuroscience, it creates momentum. And so when people are in momentum, they buy. So that's another tip. Okay. I'm going to give you one more tip.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to give you one more tip.
Okay.
whew, I'm excited. I'm super excited. My mind's like, oh, give them this. But then this podcast
Th-
episode will be really, really long.
you
So,
take your time. I promise you, there is several members watching on the website right now at bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com, or they're watching on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, and has probably I don't know if you guys have been watching on somewhere where you can see on visual, but I've been sitting here taking notes myself, guys. I mean, this is interesting stuff, and I'm looking to do it myself. I mean, this is
yes,
awesome.
do it. There's nothing holding you back. That's another tip. There's nothing holding you back. So, the third tip I'm going to share is money flow strategy. This is
Right.
fire. This is going to change your minds. This will change the perspective of how you look at opportunity. Okay? Money flow. When anyone says anything in the media, go find facts. Okay, that's a tangent. But
Yeah, I could go there
that's
too.
just go find the facts. There are facts behind that. Um,
Mhm.
but usually when anyone from the administration is in the media, they're talking about a problem or a solution. Either way, that is going to become a contract. If they start talking about a problem, like a couple of years ago, President Biden was in New York and he was at the train station. And he was talking about how he's a kid and he would ride the train all day, and he would just have all these stories and everything like that. And then,
Mhm.
oh, by the way, in that same message, he was talking about the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. You know about IJA, $3.7 trillion. Yeah. That was an oh, by the way. Did it hit media in a big way? No. That was his acknowledgement that this was just signed, that this was just passed. And so when we listen, that moment when I heard that, I called all of my clients in New York and I was just like, get on the phone with your government clients, your state, local, county, municipalities, your departments, your agencies, everyone, because contracts are coming and you want to be in front of it,
Mhm.
not when it's advertised. You want to be before it so that you can support how they write it. So there are things that you could do. It's called money flow. Locally, if you see construction in your neighborhood and you're like, oh, they're just building, it's way too late for me to get involved. It's a domino effect of cash. Money is an economy system, so it has to stay in motion. So if we look at it from that perspective of what's the next thing that they're going to have to solve in this continuation of problems, right? Then we will always be ahead of opportunities. You see,
Mhm.
because problems create solutions, but solutions create problems. We buy a new phone, we got to get a case, an adapter, a screen, and download all of our apps, but we still buy the phone. So problems are in my opinion, our way of seeing abundance. Because when there's a problem, there's always going to be a solution. But when there's a solution, there's always going to be a new problem. So that means we're never done solving problems.
It's push, pull, give, take, in every aspect of the word. Um, it's so interesting to hear broken down so elementary.
Yes.
Like, um, I've been at the whole being a contractor thing for 9 years, proud of it, but haven't even really spent the time. And I'm a immigrant myself, like I'm a permanent resident myself still. And is there any? I'm sorry to go off here, but
Yeah.
do you minorities have an edge? I know there's always been a thing with women-owned businesses on the utility side to land public contracts. So, can you speak on that just for a minute?
100%. So disadvantaged certifications at the state and federal level are very powerful. And it opens up another conversation about set asides. So, like I said earlier, small businesses have an in when it comes to government contracts. So there is also another set aside for minority businesses, veteran owned businesses. Okay. So this is a completely different pool of money. And there are certifications within that. Yeah. So there's certifications that you could apply for your business if you're 51% or more ownership. in your business. There's an ANA certification. There are so many opportunities for you to leverage who you are, your identity, and use that to win more government contracts. And I'll give you another tip or strategy for that.
Please.
When you're going up against a competitor who has a minority certification, that's okay. It's 100% okay, because you could get your certification. You could link arms or partner with someone else who has a bigger past performance or portfolio and compete with them. Like, you compete against them. Now, that's a different strategy because a lot of people don't think about that. That
Mm,
you could be a subcontractor bringing value to a prime who doesn't have a certification.
yep.
That becomes a differentiator.
Wow. I didn't even think about it like that too. Yeah, that is crazy. Um, so what do you, I mean, it sounds just wonderful to just hop right in, why haven't I done this? People are like sitting there going, why haven't I done this? Other than hey, there's this glaring blue sign that we don't see. Um, let's talk about some of the biggest challenges that these guys are
Okay.
going to face walking up and go, hey, Miss Melinda, I'm ready to get started. What's these largest challenges that you've seen over the
Yeah.
years, back when and now here with Fortis?
Giving up.
Mm,
That's the number one thing. Even corporate. I saw executives, vice presidents, they just gave up.
mm,
They said, oh man, our competitor is going to be going after this. They're probably going to win. This RFP is written for them. There's no use, right? It's just kind of all like setting yourself up for failure, and you're going to fail. So the focus is the alternative of that is just to put your hat in the race, put your best foot forward. Because the thing is the step number 5, what I teach, track, is about having the conversation with the client. So if you lose, like let's say worst case scenario, you lose. So what? You reach out to them and you say, hey, can I
yep,
schedule a debrief? And they'll
100%.
give you a debrief. And guess what? That's when you teach them and tell them about your business. And oh, by the way, do you have potentially another contract that I need might be a good fit for? This strategy really works well because they'll remember you that you asked. It doesn't hurt to ask. So that's one. That's one. So you're familiar with that strategy. That's awesome. Um, and I would say the second one that I see most common mistake that contractors make is undervaluing their past performance. Undervaluing your past performance. Oh, I don't have experience with government before. I don't have any contracts. I've worked with the commercial. I've worked in the private side. I've done only residential. Um, what they care about most is that you can actually complete the project. Like, you could
Mm-hmm.
actually fulfill the scope of work. So how you got it is less important than you got it, right? So if you have experience fulfilling the scope of work, then use that experience. It is okay, right? This is how we get into government contracting. It's not a chicken and egg situation in government contracting. They will tell you that lie. It's a lie. I
Good.
know. I was talking to a friend of mine, Ray, and he was telling me about a young lady that he met at an event. And she was just starting her business. She had literally just registered her LLC. And a few months later, he bumped into her again at a different event. And she said that she won $1 million contract for her business. Like, brand new
Wow.
business. Why am I saying this? It's so important to know that you have value before you even start a business, let alone when you've been in business.
Mm.
You just need to know how to position it, how to package it, right? It's like, well, it's just about like anything. A bottle of water is a bottle of water is a bottle of water, but we pay $5, $10, $15 for it at a stadium, right? At the airport, or at the grocery store. It's the same bottle of water. It's just packaged differently. So people will buy it.
No, I've gotta jump on two things you just mentioned. You're slinging some sales strategy here too. I've got to give you some props. You're
Oh,
not
thank you.
just giving the audience um, de-scoping and getting feedback to somebody like myself is everything. Most of the time, okay, talking to you guys that are in the private sector world that work with developers and private money, um, that
Yep.
we don't get it a lot of times. See, we
Yeah.
get, no, man, it just wasn't you. And we move
Mm,
on and there's no feedback. There's no nothing. But I will tell you, I can't honestly put my thumb on one certain situation other. Anyhow, calling the contractor and go, "Hey, man," or the developer, "Hey, man, were we just flat high? Did you
right.
have a past relationship?
Never.
Or just give us that key information. I don't care about the nitty gritty. Just let me know where it went wrong with me." And then, okay, that brings up the one major sore subject. He's gonna freaking tell me, and then I'm gonna tell him, "Hey, man, did you know that we do this to avoid that?" "No, I heard this." "Well, let me just tell you and let me show you through my marketing," or anyways, that's a totally different subject for another
Yeah.
day, but prepare
So good.
and target and strategy way
Mm,
before just, "Oh, they gave me a ring. We're going to throw a number at it and go." Yes,
yeah.
no, I agree with you, Miss Melinda. I think if somebody like myself, I've got a salesman and I've got an estimator, they
Mhm.
would, they're gonna digest all this information as fast as they can, bring it to me. We're going to talk about it. I have gotten to the level where we have some pre-contract strategy,
Yeah.
go no go matrix, and
Yes, exactly.
it's a big thing. But just as you're a brand new company, I just want to give you a shout out here because it sounds like if you can be like that lady that won $1 million in her first year, but maybe attaching yourself to somebody like yourself,
Mhm.
positioning, strategizing yourself, putting yourself in that prime position and reaching out to somebody like you that's already been there, helps other contractors, and help strategize. I'll tell you from the blue
Yeah.
collar side, we're going to go, "Hey, man, phone rang. I think this is a good one here." Quick draw
What?
a price and go, "Oh, just unit price. It'll be all right," and send it in. They need it. I can't tell you. I've done some crazy stuff
It's
like that,
stressful. Yeah.
growing, but nobody's there. There's no resource to call up and go, "Am I bidding this right?" Or, I
Yes.
mean, it's just education is expensive and experience is priceless. And as you go
Ooh,
through this
good.
time after time after time, you reinvest into yourself. But just how is there like a website that these guys can go and get certified? I've heard you say certified a couple of times. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit in detail there how a contractor can be certified to be, I guess, visible to the government side.
Okay. So the certifications specifically were related to minority certifications and
Oh, okay.
veteran-owned certifications. So we're for disadvantaged businesses.
Oh, okay.
But in terms of, I just want to win a contract, you
Uh-huh.
don't need a certification. Anyone can win it. Even if you are listening to this and you do not live in the United States of America, you can win a government contract for your business. Even if you live in the United States of America and want to do business on international soil, you could win government contracts on international soil. So there are
Wow.
endless opportunities. Now, to answer your question, there is a website that I would like to invite your audience to register for so that I can break down the system for them and answer
Okay.
specific questions live, give them that support in that direction live. So it's govconmillions.com. I'm going to spell it for you.
Okay.
GovConMillions. Trying to do it like an infomercial, but it didn't work really
I
well.
heard that little jingle going
G
on.
D right, sorry. GovConMillions, right? GovConMillions.com. Come hang out with us. It's a money party. And what we do is completely free, by the way. And what we do is we will guide you through the process. You'll understand the system, and that way you can make a decision how you're going to start winning government contracts. I'm going to tell you this. For people that are listening, they're going to say, wow, it's a great idea. They're going to subscribe and like this podcast. And then they're going to go home, right? They're going to hang out with their family and they're going to forget about this. Or it's going to linger in their mind to the next project, to the next project, to the next project. Time is of the essence. We don't know how much we have of it. And so what I'm going to say is take action now. So go to govconmillions.com. Make sure you're listening to this podcast because what we need to know is right here. All of the information is available to us. We have to take action on it now, not just when the time is right. We have to take action now. I lovingly pressure because I just want to see people change their lives and enjoy their life and enjoy the lives that they've created. And it's the next generation that needs us to show up and stand up and take action so that they can see what the example is so that they're not under someone else's thumb, so that they don't have to go through the hard that we went through, so that they can see the memory that we've left them that is greater, so that they can create a bigger memory for their people and their people's people and their people. That's real generational wealth, is changing the definition of your last name. And so I share that because it's so important for me to help legacy builders, generational wealth creators who are like, I want this vision, I want this idea, but I just don't have enough hours. Make the hours, or the hours will be taken from you. Guaranteed. I love you guys.
Money is a tool to buy time.
Yes.
And if it changed my life the first time I read it, and took me probably a year past it chewing on money is a tool to buy time. Money is a tool. Like, But you're right. I was just talking about the private sector work, and before we go, I really want to talk about pricing and
Okay.
say, there's a contractor out there listening, or maybe this is an estimator sitting out there listening, and he sees a potential in a government contract. This is his first go around. How does that differ? How are we going to price things differently? Obviously, GovCon can and help you and direct you in which way, but maybe a broad overview of how pricing is going to be different than in the government contract space compared to, say, a guy like myself and mainly the private sector side.
That's such a good question. Okay, high overview. So, because I also do private and government contracting, I see both sides of that. I have premium programs, I have mid-sized programs. It just really depends on my pricing and how I value my offers, right? On the private side, that's one thing. On the government contracting side, there is margin that you could have. Like there's definitely you can make profit on that right side, but it's not going to be this like exorbitant amount of profit you're seeing in private side. So the strategy that I recommend that I teach my clients is to use government contracts to stabilize your business, like the overhead, the cost of doing business, employee labor, like all of the taxes, all this. Use government contracting to stabilize that so that you can deal with the ups and downs, the volatility of having a business in the private sector. That way you're not showing up fearful and giving a low number and just like kicking yourself afterwards like they said yes too fast, right? Right?
Yeah.
You could take the time to be really strategic and use government contracting as an authority builder. So say that yes, this is a standard for government contracting, this scope of work, I am delivering this right now, right? And so that becomes a value add to your private sector clients. But also prime on the private sector, there is more opportunity to increase your profits just by saying you do business with the government. So it's just I can go into the weeds with this in terms of strategy, but high level, the profit margins are going to be higher in private sector. That way you can use government contracting to stabilize your business and you can deal with the volatility.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is we're going to find good volume. You're going to have stable workflow. They're going to pay on time. It's coming. And there's going to be some margin there, but it's not going to necessarily be the home runs like you can on the private side.
Yes.
But it sounds like this can be a good payroll stability for you to
Yes.
go out and take these risks on these higher private jobs that may take 90, 120 days to pay. You can still make payroll with, the government's money that's coming in every month, and you've got your crew set up making a little bit of money with them. And so I think that is a huge key thing, because I can tell you from inexperience and experience of myself
Mhm.
is walking into the private sector world and be like, let's just start bidding all this work and just doing it all.
Ugh,
And you
no.
end up with cash flow problems like you've
Yes.
never seen. And you got this guy paying you 100 days late, and this guy paying you in 35 days, and you got this guy over here paying you in 90
No,
days.
no,
And
no,
it's
no.
just super volatile. Never know when you're going to get paid till the day before you're going to get paid.
Jeez.
And there is no planning, there is no forecasting. So if you can inject a government, a more flatlined or upward trending line, however you want to depict it, but it's consistently
Yeah.
there, right?
100%. Yes, exactly.
Talk about scaling with government contracts
Oh
real quick. I mean,
my
I just
gosh.
touched on that just a little
Yeah,
bit, but
you're
go ahead and talk about that
oh boy, you're
before we
gonna
close
like,
out.
oh, this is so good. Gosh, these are all I just love these conversations. Okay. I want to add something to that because just a year ago, right? A lot of businesses were relying on banks. And what did banks do? They said, nope, we're not loaning any more money anymore to any businesses right now because of a quote unquote recession. That's another conversation. But that's what happened. And a lot of tradesmen really suffered through that time because they couldn't exactly what you just said 30, 60, 90s, whatever the net was, they were behind. The clients were behind because they were waiting to get paid, and that impacted your wallet. Imagine something like that happening again, and you're not winning government contracts right now. That is where, I mean, now you're dealing with you don't have to worry about your credit, your business credit. You're not having to worry about having to like stomp and beg for a line of credit anymore. Like you can set that up freely. You can just breathe and know that I'm not worried about the bank giving me a loan. I'm going to go get contracts to leverage this time so that I can just get over the hump, right? When there's a dark time, contracts are still flowing. When there is a high season, the contract is still flowing. Like every season, contract currently right now, during this administration, when there is an up and down and a lot of media nonsense, contracts are flowing. My clients are still winning government contracts. So what I'm saying is like when everything seems to be not working, government contracts has been working and it's going to continue to do that for another 250 years. So scaling, what I love about this government contract scaling, man, Sai, you're asking like the best questions. And I want to pull out my whiteboard and be like, this is what it is, right? But okay, so scaling, it makes it easier. Like we call it GovCon stacking. So GovCon stacking is adding multiple contracts on top of each other and staggering them across a Gantt chart. Like imagine you have a Gantt chart quarter to quarter, month to month, and you're trying to figure out the workability, right? Your overhead resources, man hours, etc., tools and equipment, things like that. You will know ahead of time. The majority of contracts that came from that $4.4 billion were backlog contracts, meaning that they won the contract and they knew that they had months, sometimes weeks, to prepare for those contracts before they came out. So imagine that. Like, you're not going to get an award and say, we need you right now. I mean, that's going to be considered an immediate emergency or a natural disaster kind of situation. You're going to have time to prepare, to hire, to train, to to rent the right equipment, to purchase the right equipment, get your equipment lease agreements, all of that set up before you even start the
That's
contract.
crazy. in private side, it's, hey, I just signed a contract. You gonna be out there tomorrow? I need silk fence up tomorrow. I need dirt turning tomorrow. I got all these people. I need you there tomorrow.
A lot
Interest
of
clock's
stress.
running. My expense clock's running. Like I get it, boys,
So
but like,
good.
can I at least, maybe plan how to get all my equipment there?
Yeah.
So, um, it absolutely would only make it easier, and I'm kind of kicking myself, especially being a minority owned business. Never really sounds like I'll be heading to govconmillions.com. So,
See
what
you there.
about bond? Okay, last question,
Yeah,
just for my own intrigue here.
sure.
What about bonding? Are we having to bond all these projects or?
They will request so in the RFP. The same thing with certificates of insurance,
Mhm.
right? So this goes back to target. If you know the types of clients that you want to work with, state, local, federal, you can go to their website and they have a copy of their agreements on their website. You know ahead of time before an advertisement comes out what you need before you need it. So bonding requirements, absolutely. You need a bonding letter to include in your RFPs or your proposals when you respond or your bids, certificates of insurance. However, like I said, there's different ways to bid. So you could bid as a subcontractor. The prime owns the responsibility of the contract. They can hold the bond and the insurance. You can have insurance, of course, for your business, but you don't need bond because they have it, right? So there's
Mm,
different strategies that you can go about it depending on the size of the contract, your comfortability. But again, it goes back to the process. It's like step one, where do we want to go? Step
mhm,
two, right? Who do we want to target? Step three, then how do we strategize? That's when we pull in partners, right? In your own community side, you could probably create partners to win government contracts. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like,
yeah.
wouldn't that be amazing? Like, just, oh my gosh, so cool. Talk about community.
Local level, we talk about it on this show every single episode. Relationships are everything.
Wow.
Relationships are everything. And I've got episodes talking with engineer inspectors and civil engineers and structurals, and I've got episodes um, talk. I guess I don't have anybody from the city level, but those city entity relationships
Hmm.
are huge,
Oh, yeah.
especially for a utility contractor. I know there's so many other types of contractors out there, but find your local level that has reoccurring work coming out. And
Yes.
you're absolutely right. Melinda was, hey, find the minutes from the last meeting, find out what they're all complaining about, and provide a solution, and they'll
Yep.
figure out how to fund it.
Yeah.
And
Easy.
so, absolutely. So that's a big testament. All right. My last thing for you, I've got for you that I ask
Yeah.
every single person that comes on this show. Number one, before I go there, thank you so much for just the insight today. That was
Mhm.
insane on government contracts, but for the
My
blue
pleasure.
collar men and working men and women out there who is just sick and tired of being stuck in the mud, in a
Amen.
trap, in the mental trap, in the physical trap, and they just got to get up and they got to do it again. I think you may have, number one, given them a little insight on a way out. Maybe if, that entrepreneur is looking for work, but even down to the guy that's just starting out in the trades world.
Mm,
Is this really for me? Talk a little bit to them.
absolutely. 100% it is for you. It's for anyone. It's for anyone that wants a better life. That's how I'll say
Right.
it. The It's not just government contracting, right? Government contracting is a vehicle. It's about knowing, having that knowledge, education, and the experience winning government contracts. That's the unlock. It is the partnerships that you build. It's the relationships you build. It's knowing how the government works beyond what the media says. Like it's actually knowing where your tax dollars are going and how it gets recycled back to you. It's about knowing things that we take for granted every single day. Listen, I worked for AEC firms, architect, engineering, construction firms in the commercial side. I worked for big construction firms, huge construction firms. Okay. I worked for engineering, MEP, AV, LV. I know this world. I understand this world. The thing that really just like hurts my heart is y'all build this world and you don't even realize it. And so this money is for you. It's not something that you want to sleep on. You want to take advantage of it. So if you're tired, I get it. Keep going. We need a better world. If you're just frustrated with the system, I get it. The word government is supposed to scare you away, which means that you need to run after it anyway, because those opportunities are set up for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't give them to someone else. Stop just like skipping over these opportunities and doing it the hard way. Like, if you want to keep doing the hard thing and expecting a different result, right? Or do you want to do something easy and make it your life better? You've already done the hard. You've already worked hard. Just make it easy for yourself. And that's one of the hardest things you can do, but it's the most rewarding things that you could do that will transcend the sense of time for your life, for your family. I mean, just look at your kids, your spouse, your friends, for your staff, your employees, your subcontractors. Like, think about their lives and what this could do for them. So what I would say to that is just, let's just go back to loving people and their value. And we stay focused on our skills and talents as something that is very valuable, because I appreciate every single one of you. I've seen exactly, I used to work for a sustainability engineering firm. Okay. I understand a nanofiltration, and I wish I didn't know what that was. Okay. So I understand what potable water is, and I get scared every time I hear it across the news when there is a storm. Okay. And so I know you guys are working your butt off. Water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants. Oh my gosh. I don't even know why they're on my way to Publix. I don't even understand why they're on my way to the grocery store, but they're there for us.
I'll tell you, it's the lowest point. It's the lowest point in your town. That's all. Gravity flows downhill.
I know. Oh my gosh. I know. I just try not to think about it.
I understand.
But it's so necessary, because what if we didn't have those things?
Oh, you know, God, like, everybody would be sick. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back in time. Not on things like plumbing. Come on.
No. So why I'm saying all of that is to kind of like beat your chest and realize that you have some real power and control and authority. And so because of that, you need to just go get what's yours. Go get it. Just go get it. Just go get it. Just stop with the excuses. Stop tomorrow. Just go get it right now, because that yours.
Is so awesome. I really appreciate your time. I am very intrigued to find out a little bit more, and I hope we stay in contact and continue this conversation for myself. Alone, the audience members. But guys, if you've loved this episode and this is the type of content, if this is the first episode you're joining with us, number one, thank you. If you're a returning member, I really appreciate you guys more than you know. I am starting to get some emails and messages from you guys about how the show is adding value back to you. And I know this episode hopefully helped a few of you. And if it did, let me know. Go to bluecollarbusinesspodcast.com, get in contact us, or maybe become a sponsor if you've got a product or service that we can help you sell right here on the Blue Collar Business Podcast. We'd love to get behind it and help you guys as a team. But Miss Melinda, thank you so much for your time and for this insight. Go check out govconmillions.com. And till next time, you guys be safe. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, share it with the fellers, check out our website to send us any questions and comments about your experience in the blue collar business. Who do you want to hear from? Send them our way, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. Till next time, guys.